Thanks for that intro, Matt. So how many of you guys have worked in organizations that employed user researchers? Nice. And how many of you have done any user research yourself? Awesome. So I'm Ania. I'm a user researcher. And my talk is called Researching the Researchers, and this is exactly what I do. I'm a user researcher at Optimal Workshop, where we build remote usability testing tools. And every day I talk to the information architects, designers, UX researchers, and just about anyone else who uses our tools to help improve their tools, their products, and generally the experiences that their users have. And my job involves being in constant conversation with other researchers on a daily basis. And it kind of puts me in a unique position where I basically just research myself all day. And it's not until other researchers approach, sorry, this isn't advancing for some reason. Oh, that's too far. That's too far. There we go. Sorry. And that puts me in a unique position in some situations where other researchers approach me to do some research on how I've been using their research tools to research the people who I research, where things get really interesting. It gets pretty meta sometimes. It's pretty great. And luckily for me, researchers make excellent research subjects. They absolutely love it. They're empathetic, they're great communicators, as we all know. They can articulate their needs very well, and they know just how hard it can be to find willing research participants. And you might think to yourself, well, damn, they just make my job super easy, don't they? But no. User research is not easy. Fundamentally, user research is about serving the people rather than serving the business needs and the bottom line. And perhaps this is the reason why it takes organizations such a long time to integrate research into the rest of the business. Interviewing users, understanding, asking the right questions, using the right tools in your research, this is relatively easy. But communicating the value of your research, getting your organization to put your user first, being an advocate for your user in every conversation, in every meeting, every decision made against market domination, against profit, against any other business need, this is not easy. And I'll return to this idea later, but I'd like to start things off with 3 facts. I'm new to UX. I'm new to user research, and I essentially don't really have any idea how to really do my job. And all I know is what I learn from the people who I research on a daily basis, and they all do things very, very differently. And this is also a new thing for Optimal Workshop. I started my job in January of this year, and until then there was no official user researchers at Optimal Workshop, but there was always research. Sorry, team. This is officially the Optimal Workshop research team. I'm really lucky that I work for an organization that's always placed importance on learning from their customers, even before there was a single researcher in the building. And until now, everyone's encouraged to talk to our users as they travel and to really learn from them. And this is a really great thing, but this is a super, super rare thing as well. And now there are 2 of us, 2 user researchers. And having a culture of research is absolutely great, but there are benefits to having a dedicated in-house user research team. Organizing your findings, planning your research, and most importantly, I think, looking at patterns longitudinally over time. This is something you might be missing if you don't have a dedicated research team, or maybe you outsource your research elsewhere. Some kind of research is better than no research, but trends are very important. Pulling together all your feedback over time and across different channels. Having an implicit knowledge of the struggles that your business faces is very important. And this kind of puts us in a unique position. It's essentially a blank slate. Being new to UX research in a company with a new research team, while learning from others, there's a lot of opportunities to learn and inform our own work. You get an understanding of not only what other businesses are doing to work on improving their experiences, but you also get an inside look into the struggles and pain points that researchers have across different industries. And this is a very valuable thing. And luckily for all of us in this room, Enthusiasm for UX research is very high. Even if organizations aren't always so great at integrating it into the rest of the business and really taking it on board, companies are slowly starting to realize that you can, in fact, discover really great things by reaching out to your users. Great experiences are a competitive advantage, and people are demanding more from the products and services that they use. You can't just design products based on assumptions and intuitions anymore. You have to really do your research if you want to stay relevant. And questions are slowly going from things like, what is user research actually good for, to how do we get everyone engaged in the research? Research is no longer seen as something that some people do. You need to really talk to your users, really listen, understand them, their world, their language, and the fact that it's never really about you. You have to have a lot of humility, and this isn't easy to do for a lot of people. And we're starting to talk more about responsibility, to create positive experiences and to enable people to do good. And organizations are slowly starting to recognize this responsibility. Humanism is becoming really important in the work we do. And sure, there are always overarching needs for a business to grow and sustain itself, but we're starting to approach things from a more kind of human perspective. And this is a really great thing, but this is something that takes a lot of time. Ooh, what's happening here? And I like this UX maturity model especially because it shows that introducing UX into an organization is a process that takes a lot of time. And your organization may fall into different parts of this model. Each stage is very distinct, has its own challenges, and it takes a lot of time to work through these stages. But regardless of where your organization is at, researchers have a responsibility to ensure that research isn't this. It's not done by one team in a silo and then presented back in a fancy presentation, but it looks something more like this. It's getting everyone involved. Developers, designers, product managers, taking part in the research, listening to the research, watching research sessions, and really talking about it. And some people might say, well, that's not my job. Well, it is your job. And if you want to be mindful about the products that you build and you offer, you need to get involved. And in a lot of cases, it's up to the researchers to ensure that this model is being adopted. And at this point, the role of the researcher becomes much more than just research. It's our job to build sensitivity to research in our organizations, to share, what we know and create opportunities for sharing, fill walls with the research, bring people into sessions, run events, share recordings around, to engage others in what we do and show the value that it brings and show how it can really change an organization. And to educate others and show how they can do it themselves. And I recently talked to two of our developers at Optimal Workshop who went over to the States for a few conferences, and they talked to some of our customers along the way. And they were really beaming with positivity that this was a great experience for them in terms of informing their own work. And one of them turned to me and he said this wonderful quote. He said, sometimes it's hard to stay empathetic. We work hard. Everyone in this room works extremely hard. And we have responsibilities every day that can shift our focus from our users. And it's very difficult to maintain sight of what you do and who you actually do it for. When you lose empathy for your user, your work kind of starts to lose meaning over time. And thinking about the people who you're impacting through your work gives your work meaning and makes it more joyful. So it's really important to make sure that you have a culture where considering your user is key. And this is why at Optimal Workshop we've been so successful at learning from our customers. But this is something I see researchers struggling with all the time. And there's this famous example of Jeff Bezos, who is the founder and CEO of Amazon, and he's known for bringing an extra chair into meeting rooms to remind everyone to always be focusing on the customer. And if this is what it takes, why not? Aligning the goals of an entire organization to focus on your user requires everyone to start speaking a new language, basically. While everyone has different objectives, marketing might focus on brand awareness and sales focuses on revenue, the one thing that is always constant is the user, and this has to translate to every group in the organization. So how does this tie into this theme that we've been talking about today, tomorrow, today? What is the future of UX research? And there is a question that comes up quite frequently when we talk about UX research. And it's, do we really need researchers? And you might think to yourself, well, everything I've said so far, doesn't that kind of say that, yeah, we really do? When we look at the UX maturity model, the UX mature organization has a whole team dedicated to research. Alongside product and marketing managers, there's a research manager who's overseeing all the research activities being done. And researchers have an interesting role, to socialize research in an organization and bring everyone closer to their users. And hopefully one day everyone will be able to say, well, we're all researchers around here. So how does this role evolve over time? And, is research a practice that everyone takes part in? Or is it a role in itself that requires these champions? What happens when research is fully integrated into a business? Does the need for researchers dissolve over time? And in many cases, research is being brought into organizations. But what happens when it becomes part of a culture? And I wish I could tell you, and I can't answer that today, unfortunately, but it is something that I'd like you to think about moving forward. All I know is that when you bring everyone closer to the research, when everyone is a researcher, everyone starts to see meaning in the work they do. Everyone's work is given context, projects have a purpose, and you can really see the impacts of important decisions being made. And I'd like to finish with a simple quote from the famous anthropologist, Edward T. Hall. And it's a quote that keeps me motivated and gives meaning to the work that I do and compels me to do the best work I possibly can.